Imagine for a moment that everything you believe to be immutable about yourself may be nothing more than a fragile construction, sustained more by habit than by truth. Imagine that the life you see as predictable, bounded by greater forces, by systems, by structures that seem unshakable, could be completely redesigned in a matter of minutes. Not by a distant miracle, not by divine intervention hovering outside of you, but by something so close, so everyday, that it's already happening as you hear these words. The simple act of breathing. And this is where the discomfort begins. Because if breathing, something you've always considered automatic, trivial, a basic bodily function, can actually be the key to transforming your mind and consciousness, what else in your life have you been ignoring? Nikola Tesla, unlike so many other scientists of his time, never saw the world as a machine made solely of material gears. For him, reality was not a solid whole, but a vibrating field of energy, frequency, and resonance. He argued that to understand the universe, one must think in terms of vibration. But if this statement were merely a metaphor, it would not have survived the test of time. What Tesla knew, and what few have dared to accept, is that human beings are not merely part of this vibrational field. They are also transmitters. You are not merely a passive receiver of the world, but someone who emits signals, who interferes with the field around you, who shapes the very space in which you live. The disturbing detail is that most do this unconsciously, like a misaligned antenna transmitting noise instead of melodies. Now ask yourself, if the air entering you every moment is more than oxygen, if it's also information, energy, and fine-tuning of your frequency, what happens when you start breathing consciously? What changes when you understand that the body doesn't just survive air, but rebuilds itself with it? This isn't a comfortable question, because it confronts us with the possibility that we've spent our entire lives underestimating the most powerful tool we have. Tesla would have approached this question scientifically. He believed that the human brain was not just a biological organ, but a receiving station, an electrical machine sensitive to invisible fields. On lonely nights, lit only by discharges from his own inventions, he observed how electrical patterns could be generated, shaped, and even synchronized. What if the brain could be regulated in the same way? What if breathing were the invisible knob that adjusts this complex machine, transforming chaotic patterns into organized harmony? There's something deeply disconcerting here. Because if breathing, repeated millions of times throughout life, has never been practiced consciously, it means you carry around a key you've never used. It's like living in a house full of locked doors, believing there are no other rooms, when in fact the key has always been in your pocket. This is the disturbing metaphor. It's not the world that limits you, but your own way of breathing. And yet, records show that in 1921, British archaeologists found instructions engraved on stone in a Tibetan monastery, preserved for centuries, as if they were secrets too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. These weren't prayers. They weren't religious parables. They were mathematically precise instructions for a breathing pattern called Gate 111. Had Tesla had access to these tablets, he would have recognized in them what he himself tirelessly sought: proof that consciousness can be shaped by frequency, that the brain can be reconfigured in minutes if exposed to the right rhythm. But an inevitable conflict arises. If this knowledge could free individuals from their fears, their mental repetitions, and even their dependence on external systems of power, why was it hidden? The answer lies with Tesla himself. He said that giving power to someone unprepared was like giving fire to someone who had never learned to tend it. Fire can warm and illuminate, but it can also burn and destroy. Conscious breathing, when conducted with precision, doesn't just relax or calm. It can reconfigure brain circuits, alter ingrained patterns, and transform anxiety into clarity. In 7 minutes, according to the records, it would be possible to break the cycle of repetitive thoughts and open new mental pathways. Imagine what this means for governments, for institutions, for any structure that depends on controlling human behavior. This is the first spark of discomfort. What if what you've always believed to be immutable, your reactions, your fears, your worldview, is merely the result of internal programming that can be undone in minutes? Tesla believed that nothing was truly fixed. He himself said that he was surrounded by ideas that suddenly appeared, like sparks sent from another dimension. What he didn't say out loud, but suggested in his writings, is that perhaps these sparks were available to all of us, not just to geniuses. Perhaps what differentiates genius from the common man is not intelligence, but the ability to adjust to the correct vibrational field. And here arises the second conflict. If we all possess this capacity, why do so few use it? Perhaps because the human mind prefers the comfortable prison of repetition to the disconcerting freedom of change. It's easier to believe that fate controls us than to accept that, with every breath, we could be reshaping our reality. Think about how many times you've repeated the same mistakes. How many times have you reacted with anger, fear, or insecurity in different situations, as if trapped in an invisible script? This prison isn't external. It's not found in laws, governments, or religions. It's in the circuits of your own brain, strengthened by constant repetition. What if it were possible through breathing to rewrite this script? Tesla is said to have said, "Change the pattern, change the frequency, and everything around you will need to respond differently." But then the most provocative question arises: do you really want to change? Because change requires responsibility. It's comfortable to blame chance, fate, or even other people. It's comfortable to believe we're limited by external circumstances. But if the key is within you, if change depends only on the way you breathe, then there are no excuses. Perhaps this is why the tablets of Gate 111 were hidden, because a human being who discovers their own key can no longer be easily manipulated. They would no longer need artificial distractions, external authorities to define what is real or possible. This human being would become a creator, not a follower. Tesla saw this risk. He said that the greatest enemy of progress was not ignorance, but the fear of those who had privileges to lose. And here lies the dilemma that marks the end of this first part. If breathing is capable of adjusting our internal circuits, if it can transform anxiety into clarity, fear into presence, and chaos into harmony, why do we insist on treating it as something banal? Perhaps because deep down we fear the freedom it offers. Because to accept that each breath shapes the world is to acknowledge that there is no pre-written destiny, no unbreakable prison, no sufficient excuse for remaining the same. Nikola Tesla would have reminded us that the greatest secrets of the universe are hidden not in the distant, but in the obvious. And that's precisely where the conflict lies. What you've always disregarded may be the key to what you've always sought. But if walking through that door means abandoning the comfort of repetition, the question that echoes is, would you dare? And as this reflection closes, the void opens to the next part. If each breath carries the power to change the mind, what happens when the universe itself is understood as breath? Tesla said that the entire cosmos pulsates, vibrates, and sings at invisible frequencies. So, if within you there is an echo of the cosmos, what changes when you decide to listen to this hidden music? Have you ever noticed how the universe seems to breathe? It's as if everything around us follows a hidden, invisible rhythm that pulses silently. The waves of the ocean that advance and retreat endlessly, the heart that beats in constant rhythm, the cycle of day and night that repeats itself with precision. Everything vibrates, everything oscillates, everything breathes. Nikola Tesla believed this was the secret that united every aspect of reality. Life is not made of solid matter, but of energy in motion, of frequencies that repeat themselves, of vibrations that pass through us. For him, the entire universe was like a symphony, and we, without realizing it, are instruments within this orchestra. The question that remains is, to what tune are you vibrating? Tesla insisted that to understand the cosmos, one must think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. These weren't just fancy words, but the essence of his worldview. He believed that every human being was a living transmitter, like an antenna constantly receiving and emitting signals. And it is precisely here that breathing takes on a new dimension. Because breathing isn't just about keeping the body alive, it's also about adjusting to the invisible frequencies that surround you. With each inhalation, you tune your inner self to a larger field, and with each exhalation, you release what no longer serves you. The problem is that almost no one realizes this. Most people breathe shallowly, hurriedly, automatically, as if they were simply surviving. What Tesla saw is that this neglect causes us to transmit noise instead of clarity, disharmony instead of harmony. Now think about your daily life. How often do you react without thinking? In traffic, someone cuts you off and you immediately become enraged. At work, unexpected criticism sparks insecurity and paralyzes you. At home, a misplaced word triggers old memories you didn't even know you still carried. All these reactions happen in fractions of a second, as if they were automatic reflexes. But are they truly inevitable? Tesla thought not. He said that, just as an electrical machine can be recalibrated to eliminate glitches, the human brain can be adjusted to respond differently. And the key to this adjustment, he said, lies in the internal rhythm, in the way you breathe. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. At first, each movement is uncertain and wobbly, and the body requires a balance it hasn't yet mastered. With practice, balance becomes natural, and what seemed impossible becomes automatic. Now think about breathing in the same way. You've spent your entire life breathing unconsciously, stumbling into automatic emotional reactions. But if you start practicing breathing as Tesla suggested, with attention, rhythm, and presence, suddenly, mental balance will become second nature. You'll no longer react to situations the same way, because your brain will be calibrated in real time. There's a curious story about a famous violinist who suffered from panic attacks every time he went on stage. For years, he believed he was doomed to live with this terror, until someone taught him a simple breathing exercise. Inhale deeply for a count of 4, hold it for another 4 counts, and then exhale slowly for 8. At first, it seemed futile, but gradually he realized something different was happening. It wasn't just that his anxiety diminished. It was as if his mind found clarity amidst the chaos. Even before he played the first note, he was already in tune with the music. Tesla would explain this phenomenon by saying that the violinist had shifted the frequency of his mind, moving from disorder to harmony, transforming noise into melody. And here a disturbing point arises. If a simple breathing technique can transform panic into presence, what else could be transformed? Anxiety, depression, destructive impulses. How many of your problems are actually the result of a brain vibrating in the wrong pattern? Tesla believed that human beings could reach higher states of consciousness if they learned to master these internal rhythms. He said that the universe responds to what we emit, not what we ask for. This means that when your breathing is uneven and your body transmits disharmony, the field around you only returns the same pattern. It's like shouting into a cave. The echo always returns with your own voice. Now ask yourself, how many times have you desired change in your life, but deep down, you weren't vibrating toward it? You may say you want peace, but if you breathe fast, live in tension, and harbor fearful thoughts, what you're sending to the universe is exactly the opposite. You may say you desire prosperity, but if every cell in your body is drenched in worry, the signal you send is one of scarcity. Tesla pointed out this contradiction. He said the problem isn't desire, but the frequency that accompanies it. You don't attract what you want, but what you are. And how do we change this is? How do we escape the identity crystallized in ancient patterns? Tesla would give the simplest, and at the same time, most challenging answer. Start with your breath, because it's the invisible thread that connects your body, your mind, and your vibrational field. It's the interface that can reprogram the way you perceive the world. This isn't an exaggeration. Modern studies already show that breathing exercises alter brain activity, change hormone release, and even influence the way the heart beats. Neuroscience is only confirming what Himalayan monks had already practiced for centuries, and which Tesla, with his visionary gaze, would have identified as proof of the vibrational nature of human beings. Think of an everyday situation, a common argument at home, the misspoken word, the altered tone of voice, the tension building. Normally, you react without realizing it, responding in kind, entering an automatic cycle. But what if, in that instant, you simply stopped, took a deep breath, held it, and exhaled slowly? Within seconds, your body would begin to rebalance. Your heart would slow, your brain would receive calming signals, and your perception of the situation would shift. What seemed like a personal attack could be seen more clearly, perhaps even with compassion. Tesla would call this a frequency shift. You haven't changed the other person. You haven't changed the external situation. But by altering your own vibration, the field of possibilities before you has expanded. And this is the most challenging point. We weren't taught to breathe consciously. From birth, we breathe only because our bodies demand it, not because we understand the power hidden in this gesture. We grow up in a world that values quick thinking, productivity, and haste, but ignores the basis of it all, the rhythm that sustains the mind. Tesla would see this as a serious flaw in humanity. He believed that without learning to control our own internal rhythm, human beings would become slaves to external patterns, reacting to everything without realizing that they could be the authors of their own symphony. Now imagine the following scene: a person in the throes of an anxiety attack, heart racing, mind spiraling, hands trembling. This person feels like they're about to lose control, but someone nearby says, "Breathe with me. Inhale, hold, exhale. 3 times, 4 times. Little by little, something changes. The internal storm begins to dissipate. The brain, which was on high alert, receives the command that there is no longer any danger. The internal chemistry transforms. Tesla is said to have said that this person, in that moment, changed the channel, as if he had turned the knob on a radio and found a clearer station. What if you could do this whenever you wanted? What if you had the power to alter your body's frequency in any situation? What would change in your daily life, your relationships, your outlook on life? This is the question Tesla would leave echoing within you. He knew that most people aren't ready to embrace this power, because embracing it also means stopping blaming fate, others, or chance. It means understanding that every breath is a choice, and that you are responsible for what you transmit to the field around you. And this is where the suspense arises. Because if breathing can transform simple emotional states, what else can it do? Can it cure diseases? Can you expand consciousness to the point of accessing information that would normally be out of reach? Tesla believed so. He himself said he received ideas whole, complete, as if transmitted from another dimension. Perhaps deep down, he was simply more attuned than others. Perhaps he had discovered how to breathe in accordance with the vibrational field of the cosmos. This is the unsettling invitation of this part of the journey. The universe breathes, vibrates, pulsates. You breathe, vibrate, pulsate. The difference lies in how you choose to adjust to this rhythm. Tesla believed that genius was not a privileged being, but simply someone who learned to hear the hidden rhythm and align with it. What if this ability were also within you, just dormant? What would happen if, instead of living like a misaligned antenna transmitting noise, you began to emit clarity? Ultimately, this is the choice before you. Continue breathing as if it were simply survival, repeating the same patterns, living in the same echo chamber. Or begin breathing as if it were creation, as if each inhalation were a fine-tuning, and each exhalation a chance to release what no longer serves. Tesla would point out firmly, the field around you responds to your vibration. If you remain in the noise, you will receive noise. But if you change the rhythm, if you change the frequency, everything else must respond. And as this reflection closes, a new horizon opens. Because the question that now arises is inevitable. If breathing can adjust your timing, what happens when specific numbers, patterns, and rhythms, like the enigma of 111, enter the scene? Tesla saw in these numbers a secret language, a key that translates the mathematics of the cosmos into tangible reality. And perhaps that's precisely where the journey becomes even more mysterious. There was something that always intrigued Nikola Tesla more than any invention he could build with his own hands: numbers. He saw them not simply as mathematical symbols, but as vibrational keys, gateways to invisible laws that governed the universe. Among them all, there was one sequence that seemed to haunt him like a silent echo: 3, 6, and 9. Tesla said that whoever understood the magnificence of these numbers would hold the secret of the universe in their hands. But what does this really mean? Is it merely the mystical obsession of an eccentric genius? Or could there be a concrete clue to the very structure of reality? Imagine that each number is not just a quantity, but a rhythm. 3 would represent the beginning of the cycle, the fundamental triad that structures everything: birth, life, and death, body, mind, and spirit, past, present, and future. 6 would be the expansion of this cycle, the multiplication of possibilities, the movement of growth and connection. 9, in turn, would close the cycle, symbolizing completion, integration, and return to the whole. When Tesla spoke of these numbers, he wasn't referring to trivial calculations, but to the secret dance that sustains reality. Now, here comes the first pattern break. If numbers are vibrations, what are you really emitting when you mentally repeat the same thoughts day after day? Tesla's obsession with 3, 6, and 9 finds a curious parallel in the Tibetan enigma of Gate 111. It's no coincidence that this number is the repetition of 1 3 times. For Tesla, One represented unity, the indivisible essence, the primordial spark. Repeating it 3 times was like aligning the fundamental triad, creating a resonance capable of opening cracks in human perception. And here, modern science begins to approach this vision. Neuroscience studies show that specific rhythmic repetitions of stimuli, sounds, movements, or even breathing patterns, have the ability to alter neural plasticity, creating new connections at astonishing speed. What Tibetan monks called 111 breathing cycles can be interpreted through Tesla's lens as a mathematical formula for reorganizing the brain. But why 111 and not another number? This is the nagging question, the one that breaks the linearity of the explanation. Perhaps the answer lies in what we call harmonic resonance. When a string vibrates at a certain frequency, other nearby strings that share the same harmonic frequency begin to vibrate as well, even without being touched. What if the brain, exposed to a specific breathing pattern, began to resonate with larger structures of the universal field? Tesla believed that the universe was an immense set of interconnected frequencies, and that certain numerical combinations could function as passwords to access hidden layers of reality. Think about this. How many times have you found yourself mentally repeating the same phrase, the same memory, as if stuck in a cycle? These repetitions don't happen by chance. They are reinforced neural circuits, already paved paths that the brain prefers to follow. The number 111, according to tradition, serves as a symbolic hammer to break these paths, forcing the brain to open new routes. Tesla interpreted this as a frequency shift, an adjustment that, in minutes, alters not only conscious thoughts but also the way the unconscious reacts to the world. But is it possible that a simple breathing pattern can break years of mental conditioning? This question is troubling because it challenges the common notion that change requires prolonged effort, years of therapy, or training. However, the human brain is more plastic than we like to admit. Modern research shows that within minutes of intense practice, it's possible to modify brainwave patterns, alter heart rhythms, and even influence gene expression. Tesla would have looked at these studies with a smile, already intuiting that change didn't depend on linear time, but on the correct frequency. Now imagine a person who spent years believing they weren't creative. Every time they tried to write, paint, or innovate in any field, their mind would block them with the silent phrase, "This isn't for me." This belief repeats itself like a wall. But after trying a breathing practice based on 111 cycles, something unexpected happens. Instead of feeling merely calm, this person begins to have flashes of ideas, sudden visions, new connections. They can't explain it, but suddenly they write an entire page effortlessly. Tesla would interpret this episode not as a miracle, but as the natural result of vibrational reprogramming. The mind, by shifting its frequency, accessed a field of information that had previously been blocked. And here's another pattern breaker worth pondering. If the brain truly is an antenna, as Tesla believed, are all our ideas ours alone? Or could it be that by tuning into certain frequencies, we capture information that already exists in a larger, invisible but accessible field? This hypothesis may sound fantastical, but think about how many times you've had an idea, out of the blue, only to discover later that someone else, somewhere far away, was working on the same concept. Coincidence or synchronicity? Tesla had precisely these experiences. He said that entire inventions appeared in his mind, complete and detailed, as if transmitted from an invisible field. What set him apart from most was not luck, but his ability to receive these signals clearly. He himself claimed that when he entered states of deep concentration, which today we might associate with breathing or meditative practices, his mind seemed to change stations and capture information not accessible to his ordinary consciousness. Could 111 be the password for this same process, accessible not only to geniuses, but to anyone willing to experiment? The suspense grows when we consider the impact of this on a large scale. If individuals can reprogram their own minds and access higher states of clarity through breathing and numerical repetition, what would happen if entire communities practiced together? Tesla believed that collective vibrational fields could be formed. He said that when two transmitters resonate, energy flows between them without loss. Imagine hundreds of minds tuning into the same pattern. What was once just an individual experience would become a collective field capable of altering even external events. But herein lies the danger. Because if this power exists, who can guarantee it can't be used for manipulation? If a resonant mind becomes more flexible, more open to new programming, what prevents systems of power from using this principle to implant beliefs en masse? Tesla warned that granting power without awareness was risky. The same frequency that can liberate can also imprison. It's like handing over a blade. It can be used to create or to wound. This tension is the heart of the matter. Now ask yourself, to what extent do you really want to know this secret? Because knowing implies responsibility. If frequency can shape your mind, it means that every time you choose passivity, you're allowing others to choose for you. And if, on the contrary, you decide to take control, you'll have to abandon the comfort of repetition. Tesla would say that this is the true price of freedom, the courage to tune into your own frequency instead of living in the echo of someone else's. The unsettling beauty of 111 lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require technology, temples, or sophisticated instruments. It simply requires breathing, repetition, and presence. And perhaps it's precisely this simplicity that's frightening. Because if something so close, so accessible can transform your mind, then there's no excuse. You can no longer blame fate, the government, family, or even luck. The power has always been in your body, in the air that enters and leaves your lungs, in the rhythm you choose to follow. The question is, why did it take us so long to realize this? What Tesla seemed to be telling us, even without ever explicitly revealing it, is that the deepest secrets of the universe are not hidden in complex formulas, but in the most obvious gestures. Breathing consciously, repeating rhythmically, aligning with frequencies that sustain life. This may seem too banal to be taken seriously, but perhaps that's precisely where the genius lies. In the simple, the repetitive, the invisible. And as you reflect on this, the inescapable question arises: what really happens after the 111th cycle? Is it merely a sense of calm, or a portal opening to as yet unknown dimensions of the mind? Tesla believed that the human mind could be trained to access layers of reality, that science is still in its infancy, in comprehending. Perhaps 111 is the silent invitation to this crossing. Whatever the answer, the suspense continues. If conscious breathing combined with the numerical enigma can alter brain circuits, expand perceptions, and open internal doors, what will happen when we encounter the next secret hidden between inhalations and exhalations? The absolute silence that lies in the space between one breath and the next? There's a moment in breathing that almost no one notices. It's not the air coming in, nor the air going out. It's the instant in between, the silent space where nothing seems to happen. For most, it's just a natural pause, but for Nikola Tesla, this interval was much more than that. He believed the secrets of the universe were hidden in the void, not in the filled. For him, the silence between an inhale and an exhale was like the crack through which reality lets its deepest laws escape. This detail, so subtle that you almost never notice it, may hold the key to states of consciousness that change the way we view life. Think about what happens when you hold your breath for a few seconds. Your body goes into overdrive, your heart rate changes, and the electrical signals in your brain reorganize. It's as if the mind's machinery is suspended, waiting for the next command. Modern studies show that in this interval, there's a measurable change in brain waves. The brain begins to oscillate in patterns similar to those of lucid dreaming or deep meditation. In other words, in that fraction of silence between your intake and release of air, you tap into states you would normally only access in rare experiences. Isn't it curious to think that what we always seek outside ourselves could be hidden in a moment we ignore daily? There are stories that illustrate this strikingly. A famous musician, known for suffering intense anxiety before going on stage, decided to try breathing exercises that included prolonged pauses. At first, the sensation was uncomfortable, almost distressing, as if he were playing with his own limits. But with practice, something happened. Instead of entering the stage trembling, he began to feel a profound inner silence, a clarity so great that the music seemed to flow on its own. Later, brain scans revealed that during these pauses, his neural waves became more synchronized, as if his brain had found harmony amidst emptiness. Tesla would have called this a moment of resonance, evidence that silence is not absence, but concentrated presence. Now consider something that may seem obvious but is easily forgotten. Life is only possible because there is pause. If the heart didn't have the interval between beats, there would be no circulation, If the brain didn't have the rest between stimuli, there would be no learning. Even music only exists because there is silence between notes. The same goes for breathing. It is in the interval, in the space where we neither inhale nor exhale, that something hidden manifests itself. Ask yourself, why do we ignore the very space that holds the secret? Perhaps because silence frightens us, because in it there are no distractions, only the naked truth of who we are. Neuroscience researchers have been surprised by discoveries linked to this breathing pause. In laboratories, individuals undergoing breathing practices with controlled intervals demonstrated an increase of up to 700% in the brain's gamma wave activity, the same waves associated with moments of insight, extreme creativity, and even mystical experiences reported in different cultures. It's as if the brain, when deprived of stimulation for a few seconds, reorganizes its energy in a burst of clarity. This isn't just theory, it's measurable data. And if this happens in a few minutes of practice, imagine what hundreds of repeated cycles could produce. An unexpected detail emerges when we observe ancient cultures. Among Indian yogis, Tibetan monks, and even practitioners of shamanic traditions, there has always been an emphasis on breath retention, the moment one holds one's breath. These practices were seen as spiritual portals, but they were never fully explained in scientific terms. Tesla, with his vibrational worldview, would have understood immediately. Holding one's breath is like interrupting the flow of current in a circuit so that it can reorganize itself. In this moment, it is not the body that adjusts to the air, but the internal electric field itself that recalibrates. Think about how often in situations of surprise or shock, you instinctively hold your breath. When you receive unexpected news, witness something shocking, or experience sudden fear, your body freezes its breath for a moment. Why does this happen? Perhaps because, in the silence of the pause, the brain tries to reprogram itself to deal with the novelty. It's as if emptiness were the matrix of adaptation. What if we learned to consciously use this instant that already happens automatically? If each pause were a chance to reset old patterns, to make room for new responses? The most surprising thing is that modern science is beginning to confirm something that seemed like mysticism. In experiments with groups who practiced conscious breathing with pauses, it was discovered that not only the brain changes, but also the body as a whole. Hormones linked to stress decrease, genes associated with cellular regeneration are activated, and even the immune system shows signs of strengthening. This means that the silence between two breaths is not just psychological, but biological. Your entire body understands the invisible command to reorganize. There are also striking statistics. People who regularly practice breathing techniques with pauses report a reduction of up to 60% in anxiety attacks in just a few weeks. Others report that their sleep becomes deeper and their dreams more vivid. Some even describe experiences of unity, as if their individual selves had momentarily disappeared and merged into the whole. Tesla, who believed that the human being was a living antenna, would say that during these pauses, the mind stops transmitting only personal noise and begins to capture the universal transmission. But this raises a disturbing question. Are we truly prepared to deal with what we find in this silence? Because it offers more than just peace. Often, what emerges in the void are fears, memories, or truths we avoid facing. Perhaps this is why we avoid silence and prefer constant noise. It's easier to live immersed in distractions than to endure the brutal clarity that can emerge in a pause for breath. Yet, it is precisely there that the potential for transformation lies. An interesting story comes from a group of soldiers undergoing rehabilitation after war trauma. They participated in an experimental program that included breathing exercises focused on conscious pauses. At first, the practice seemed unbearable. The pauses brought back painful memories and intense physical sensations. But over time, many reported that the memories began to fade, as if dissolved by the repetition of silence. Some began to sleep better. Others found a sense of calm they hadn't felt in years. What does this tell us? That emptiness doesn't erase pain by denying its existence, but by offering the brain a chance to reorganize how it deals with it. Tesla would have seen this as proof that even trauma is, at its core, a matter of frequency. What if this same principle could be applied to a collective? Imagine entire groups practicing breathing pauses together. Recent studies show that when people breathe in the same rhythm, their heartbeats and brainwaves begin to synchronize. It's as if they create a single field, a collective mind vibrating in unison. Tesla believed that when two transmitters resonate, energy flows without loss. Now imagine dozens, hundreds of people resonating through their breathing. What could emerge from this field? New ideas? Collective solutions? A sense of unity that transcends individuality. But here, a risk arises. If silence is a portal of reprogramming, it can be used to liberate but also to manipulate. The same state of openness that allows trauma to heal can make the mind vulnerable to external suggestions. And it's not difficult to understand how this already happens. Speeches, songs, or mass rituals often exploit collective breathing rhythms to induce states of receptivity. Tesla warned that energy in itself is neither good nor bad. It all depends on how it is used. The silence between breaths, therefore, demands responsibility. Have you ever noticed how your entire life can change in seconds of silence? The decision not to respond in the heat of anger, the pause before accepting a proposal, the moment of reflection before moving on. In each of these moments, empty space becomes more powerful than any impulsive action. Perhaps this is why ancient cultures so valued the pause in breathing, because it symbolizes the human capacity to interrupt the automatic and choose consciously. The most intriguing thing is that we don't need to wait for special conditions to experience this. It's within reach right now at this very moment. Just stop, take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and feel the silence spread. You might notice your thoughts reorganizing, your emotions losing strength, and a new space emerging within you. Tesla would say that in this moment, you're not just breathing, but connecting to the vibrational field of the universe. And as this understanding deepens, an inevitable suspense arises. If in the silence between two breaths, we can already access clarity, creativity, and even healing, what happens when we multiply this practice over hundreds of cycles? What happens when we truly cross Gate 111 and allow the brain to completely reorganize itself from the void? This is the question that now arises, and the answer may be more transformative than we are ready to accept. Imagine that within you exists a silent orchestra, formed by the brain, the heart, and the entire body. Each organ emits an electrical field. Each cell vibrates at a specific frequency, and together they construct what we call presence. Most people never realize this because they live immersed in disordered thoughts, unstable emotions, and accelerated biological rhythms. But Nikola Tesla believed that when these three elements, mind, emotion, and body, come into coherence, a state of extraordinary power arises. He called this resonance, the point at which all parts vibrate in unison and begin to influence the larger field that surrounds us. This idea is not just poetic. It is measurable, it is science, and it is what separates a chaotic life from a life of harmony. Have you ever noticed how you feel when you're in internal conflict? Your brain says one thing, your heart feels another, and your body responds in a third way. You want peace, but your breath is shallow and anxious. You want prosperity, but your chest vibrates with fear. You want love, but your body still bears emotional scars from past experiences. This imbalance creates noise, and the universe responds to the noise with more confusion. Tesla claimed that the cosmos responds not to words, but to the vibrational state you transmit. In other words, it doesn't matter what you say you want, it matters what you are in frequency. The concept of heart-brain coherence is already being studied in laboratories today. Research shows that when a person enters a state of cardiac coherence, through deep breathing and focusing on elevated emotions like gratitude or compassion, the heart's electrical pattern becomes more stable and predictable. This pattern directly influences the brain, which begins to generate more organized and synchronized waves. It is in this state that mental clarity, creativity, intuition, and even a strengthening of the immune system emerge. Tesla, with his visionary vision, is said to have said that this state is simply proof that we are aligned transmitters. When we align our inner layers, the transmission becomes clear, without interference, and the field around us responds. Now think of a common, everyday situation. Before an important conversation, you feel your heart racing, your breath becoming shallow, and your thoughts becoming confused. In this state, you'll have a hard time expressing what you want clearly. But if you stop for a moment, take a deep breath, hold it, and release it slowly, you might feel something shift. Your heart slows, your brain begins to organize itself, and your words flow more naturally. This isn't just psychological, it's physical, it's electrical. Tesla saw this process as a frequency shift in the human transmitter. But here's the intriguing point. What if it wasn't just about you? Recent studies have shown that groups of people in a state of collective coherence influence even machines designed to generate random numbers. The simple fact that several people are in harmony has caused supposedly chaotic systems to exhibit more ordered patterns. This means that coherence is not just an internal experience, but a force capable of impacting the external environment. Tesla believed precisely this. When two transmitters vibrate in unison, they create an energy field more powerful than the sum of its parts. Now imagine dozens or hundreds of people vibrating together. What could emerge from this field? Real-life stories reinforce this phenomenon. In some schools that implemented conscious breathing programs focusing on heart coherence, cases of indiscipline and violence were observed to drop by up to 70%. Students who previously couldn't concentrate began to show significant improvements in academic performance. There was no magic, no external imposition. There was simply frequency adjustment. Tesla would have seen this as indisputable evidence that social reality is shaped by the collective vibrational field. This fact raises an inevitable question. If it's possible to harmonize entire classes, what would happen if families, communities, or even entire societies practiced coherence? The answer can be frightening for those who rely on chaos to maintain control. Because a coherent mind isn't easily manipulated. A coherent heart isn't held captive by fear or scarcity. A coherent body doesn't get sick so easily. Coherence, after all, is the most radical form of freedom. But not everything is simple. The path to coherence requires confronting internal disorder. Many people, when beginning to practice breathing and focus exercises, report feeling discomfort, repressed emotions surfacing, and old memories emerging. It's as if the body, in trying to align itself, first needs to purge the noise accumulated over years. Tesla warned that the tuning process always involves initial noise, just as a machine needs to vibrate before finding the correct frequency. What seems like chaos at first is merely the necessary adjustment to achieve harmony. An unexpected fact reinforces the power of this process. In states of coherence, it has been measured that the heart's electromagnetic field can expand up to 3 meters around the body. This means that your physical presence isn't just visual, it's vibrational. You literally affect the environment around you, influencing people without saying a word. Who hasn't walked into a room and felt the heavy energy, even without anyone saying anything? Or, on the contrary, felt lightness and calm just by being near someone? Tesla would explain it straightforwardly. You're capturing that person's vibrational transmission. Now ask yourself, how many times have you tried to change your life simply by thinking? How many times have you written down goals, repeated affirmations, or daydreamed about a different reality, but remained stuck in the same circumstances? This happens because your thoughts were on one frequency, but your heart and body vibrated on another. It's like trying to play a symphony where each instrument is out of tune. The only thing that emerges is noise. Coherence is the adjustment that transforms noise into music, intention into creation, thought into reality. And here lies the suspense that cannot be ignored. If coherence is capable of changing not only your internal experience, but also the external environment, what else could be transformed? Could we cure diseases, resolve collective conflicts, alter seemingly immutable patterns in society? Tesla believed so. For him, the universe responded inexorably to the vibrational field. It's not a matter of belief, but of law. Just as gravity doesn't depend on your faith, neither does resonance. You transmit, the universe responds. What makes this reflection even more disturbing is the responsibility it imposes. If you transmit all the time, consciously or not, it means you are never neutral. Every emotion, every thought, and every breath are signals sent to the greater field. So the inevitable question is, what have you been emitting? Chaos or harmony, fear or clarity, scarcity or abundance? Tesla would say there is no way to fool the field. You can lie with words, but not with vibrations. The universe responds to who you are, not to what you say. Stories of individual transformation confirm this truth. People who began practicing coherent breathing techniques daily report unexpected changes. Relationships that were previously marked by conflict became lighter. Important decisions began to be made with clarity. Even financial opportunities began to emerge without apparent effort. It's not magic, but adjustment. By vibrating in coherence, these people began to emit different signals and consequently attracted different responses from the field. And as you ponder this, the next mystery arises. If it's possible to achieve individual and collective coherence, what happens when we multiply this state into complete cycles, like those of Gate 111? What changes when the brain, heart, and entire body enter into deep alignment for minutes at a time, repeated with precision? Science doesn't yet have all the answers, but Tesla believed this would be the transition point between the ordinary human and the awakened human. And perhaps this is the most impactful revelation yet to come. There's a moment in life when everything seems to align and at the same time fall apart. It's the moment you realize you can no longer live as before, that you no longer fit within the same beliefs, the same fears, the same patterns. This moment doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't announce its arrival. It insinuates itself in silences, in sleepless nights, in questions you try to avoid. Nikola Tesla believed that this moment was the true turning point for human beings. When they understand, they are not just a passive observer of the universe, but an active part of it. That every thought, every emotion, and above all, every breath is a message sent to the vibrational field that surrounds us. And it is at this point that we must conclude this journey, not as an ending, but as an invitation to begin. What you've seen so far is not a distant theory, not an esoteric fantasy to be contemplated and forgotten. It's a map to return to yourself, to access the source of power that has always been within you, but has been obscured by distractions, noise, and conditioning. Tesla said that the secrets of the universe were hidden in energy, frequency, and vibration. If this is true, and modern science increasingly confirms this view, then your life is not defined by chance, but by the pattern you emit. Destiny is not a blind force governing from without. It is the continuous resonance of what you vibrate within. This is the greatest responsibility, and at the same time, the greatest freedom anyone can have. You might be wondering, what now? What do I do with all this? This is the most important question, because knowledge without action becomes just another burden. To prevent this message from becoming merely a passing inspiration, it needs to be transformed into practice. And to do that, here's a simple, straightforward strategic plan that can be incorporated into your daily life. 7 minutes a day for 7 days to walk through the first door of this experience. Tesla didn't want us to believe his words without testing them. He experimented, failed, tried again, until the truth revealed itself through the results. Do the same. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. This could be upon waking, before bed, or even during a work break. Sit with your spine erect, relaxed, and free from stiffness. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply in 4 counts, as if drawing energy from the ground to the top of your head. Hold the breath for 4 counts, focusing your attention on the point between your eyebrows, where many traditions say the gateway to expanded perception is. Exhale slowly in 8 counts, releasing not only the air, but also fears, anxieties, and tensions that no longer need to remain. Finally, hold your lungs empty for 2 counts. This is vibrational silence, the space of recalibration, the pause that Tesla would see as a portal to the invisible field. Repeat this cycle 111 times, or as many as you can. It doesn't matter if it's just a few repetitions at first. What matters is that you do it with presence, because it is presence that creates frequency. For 7 days straight, record in a notebook everything you feel or perceive. It could be a more vivid dream, an unexpected intuition, a thought that brings clarity to a long-standing problem, or simply a greater sense of calm in the face of chaos. Tesla obsessively recorded every detail of his experiences, because he knew that even the smallest signal could contain a code for something greater. By writing things down, you not only store memories, you give your brain confirmation that something real is happening. This is the seed of change. After 7 days, notice the patterns. You might notice that situations that once irritated you no longer affect you in the same way. Maybe you'll see an idea that seemed blocked finally begin to open up. Or maybe you don't see any external changes yet, but you sense a new clarity within. This is a sign that your internal transmitter has begun to recalibrate. It's like turning the knob on a radio station. At first there's noise, but gradually the sound becomes clear. And here's the next step. Don't stop. True power lies in discipline. Tesla said that the difference between a visionary and a dreamer is consistent action. Make this exercise part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or eating, not as a mechanical obligation, but as a commitment to your own freedom. With each cycle of conscious breathing, you send a signal of clarity to the universal field, and the field responds. Maybe not in the way you imagine, maybe not in the time you desire, but it responds. Because the law of resonance never fails, just as gravity never fails. But there's something even deeper. When you practice, it's not just your life that changes. You become part of a collective field. Your coherence influences those around you. Your calm breaks chains of reactivity in your family. Your clarity inspires others to seek the same. Each conscious breath is not just an individual act, it's a contribution to the human field. Tesla believed in an invisible network that connects all living beings. He saw each person as an antenna, and when multiple antennas vibrate in harmony, they create powerful waves capable of crossing borders. By practicing, you're not just transforming your story, but helping to write a new collective story. Now, take a deep breath and ask yourself, are you willing to embrace this power? Are you ready to stop blaming chance, the system, or fate, and accept that every breath is a creative choice? Because this is where inspiration must become a decision. Tesla never wanted to be remembered solely for his inventions, but for what they represented. Proof that energy can be shaped and directed. You too are energy, and if you can shape your energy, you can shape your life. Deep down, you know you can no longer return to automatic mode. You know you can no longer accept living, repeating old patterns, waiting for something external to rescue you. Rescue is within you, in the rhythm that has always been present, but which you are now learning to use consciously. Breathing isn't just about survival. It's about creation. It's about code. It's the password to pass through door 111, not as a metaphor, but as a practice. And passing through it means one thing. You stop being just a spectator of life and become its conscious creator. And if you still have doubts, ask yourself just one question. What do you have to lose? 7 minutes a day, a break from the noise, a chance to feel the silence and hear what has always been there. Tesla said that the universe neither rewards nor punishes, only responds. So experiment, breathe, record, observe, and allow life to show you that change is not a distant promise but a reality available now. In the end, the greatest secret is also the simplest. You don't attract what you desire, but what you are. Become a frequency of clarity, and clarity will come. Become a frequency of abundance, and abundance will find its way to you. Become a frequency of love, and love will cease to be a pursuit and become a state. The key has always been in your hands, or rather, in your lungs. It's in the air that flows in and out, in the silence between one breath and the next, in the hidden number that connects the human to the cosmic. And now, I extend a direct invitation. If this content has sparked reflection, hope, or even resistance in you, share it. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content that expands the mind and heart. Leave your like so this message reaches more people who, like you, are ready to cross their own inner doors. And write in the comments, even anonymously, your questions, experiences, or discoveries. Every word shared here is not just yours. It's a flame that can illuminate others on the same path. Gate 111 stands before you. The air is already in your lungs. The universe awaits your decision. Now it's your turn. Breathe, create, and cross over.